Lieutenant General Douglas Lute. General Lute, thank you so much for joining us. Reports have come in that the Ukrainian city of Kherson has now been occupied by Russian troops, potentially making it the first city to fall. How does this change the war in Ukraine?
Well, my first thought is that in warfare, the first report is often wrong. So we should take these initial reports for as simply that, just first reports. These things can swing very quickly, even day to day. I think it is significant, though, if the reports are correct, that Kherson may now be under control of Russian forces. Why is that? Because these are Russian forces that came out of the Crimea Peninsula in the south, turned west, and encountered Kherson. Kherson's about 300,000 people strong, and I think it'll give us a model. If it is under Russian control, it'll give us a model for what that Russian control, Russian administration will look like. And if anything, I think that Kherson will become a rallying cry for Ukrainians, like the mayor that you just interviewed.
And 4 Russian fighter jets appear to have violated Swedish airspace. What can Sweden and other Scandinavian countries do to keep Russian planes out? Well,
look, violation of national airspace has been going on for some time, especially in the Baltic Sea region and the Black Sea region. Sweden is perfectly capable of defending its airspace, and I'm sure that Swedish fighters were alerted and sent to the scene of the incursion. Typically what happens is that these incursions are not very deep, not very long in duration, and they're turned away quite quickly.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed little optimism for talks between Ukraine and Russia today. Why do you think the dismal outlook?
Well, it appears that President Putin has selected a course of action that he's going to stick with. I would like to say that Putin will, before he backs down and moves to diplomacy, he will double down on the military effort. So I think that there's not a bright light now. There doesn't seem to be much of an opening now for diplomacy. But we should always keep that as an option, because wars typically end not by complete control of one side over the other, but by some sort of diplomatic deal. It's just that the path of that diplomacy right now, in these early days, isn't very clear.
As countries like Poland open their borders to tens of thousands of Ukrainian refugees, are you concerned at all about the Russians exploiting the chaotic flow of refugees out of Ukraine, or the weapons being sent into Ukraine to their advantage?
So not yet. So the Russian forces are fixated and largely consumed by the fight in the east. That's hundreds of miles from the Polish border. So far, the refugees, which numbers appear now to be up close to 1 million, are fleeing from the center of the country, from Kyiv and so forth, westward on foot, by road, into Poland and other NATO countries. That road so far appears to be jammed, but open. And as you mentioned, these are the same routes which in reverse flow will supply the Ukrainian resistance and the Ukrainian army. So this is a two-way flow across those borders between Western Ukraine and NATO.
And the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations today accused Russia of using cluster and vacuum bombs. The use of both are banned under the Geneva Convention. Is there anything that the international community can do to stop Russians from using these banned weapons?
Well, there's not much we could do to stop it. I mean, if they're going to violate the international ban on these outlawed systems, then Russia's going to violate them. Eventually, we might someday hold them to account. But these are really brutal weapon systems. They're indiscriminate. They tend to cause a lot of civilian casualties, and that's of course why they were banned.
Mr. Lute, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your insight.